Welcome to this overview session of the Level 4 Diploma in Education and Training Management. My name is Christina. I am a faculty member at the UK Group of Education, and I will be facilitating today's overview session, during which you learn more about Level 4 and the units that are part of this level. The main objective of the Level 4 Diploma in Education and Training Management is to develop your understanding of both theory and practice that relates to your role in education. It will also give you the opportunity to learn more about and engage with some of the challenges that professionals within that industry are facing. And it will also develop your ability to work as an effective practitioner in the education sector. The level consists of 6 units, and you will need to obtain 120 credits in total in order to qualify. The units are Principles, Theories, and Practices of Education and Training. That is the first unit that we're going to start with. The second one is Create Education and Training Programs. This is the unit where you will be learning how to create training programs. The third unit is Engage Learners in the Education and Training Process. Now that unit teaches you how to effectively engage learners in the learning process so that their learning objectives will be met. The fourth unit is Plan, Allocate, and Monitor Work in own area of responsibility. The fifth is Evaluate Education and Training Provision. And the sixth is Reflect on and maintain all skills and practice in education and training. So the sixth unit is very much about using self-reflection as a means of developing yourself as an effective practitioner. Now these are the 6 units, and what we're going to do next is looking at each of the units individually. I would like to let you know that this is just a very brief overview of what each unit will consist of and what you will learn during the sessions that are part of the units. But in the actual session, there will be much more information, content that you will be learning, because we've got a certain amount of time today, and the purpose of the session is to really help you understand some of the key points that this level is going to cover. So let's get started. The first unit, Principles, Theories, and Practices of Education and Training. The aim of it is to give you an understanding of the skills an advanced education and training practitioner needs to underpin their core knowledge and practice. So during this unit, you will learn, first of all, why people and organizations choose to engage in learning and education activities. So let's take a moment here to focus on learners' motivation. What are the reasons behind learners joining, attending training and education activities? The first reason is acquisition of knowledge. When they're actually learning something new that they can apply in their role, or they can apply to perhaps progress within their career or change their job altogether. So the acquisition of knowledge. The second one is enhanced productivity and performance. What you will notice as a practitioner within the training sector is that many organizations invest in their employees attending training and education sessions or activities in order for their performance to improve. So enhanced performance and productivity is another reason behind learners engaging in training and development activities. Career progression also, or obtaining a qualification. And succession planning. So what is succession planning? Succession planning is part of the organization strategy to ensure that all their managerial positions are filled, and they usually have succession planning strategies, and as a learner you could be part of this strategy. So if you're looking to progress within your career, then the organization may send you to training and development activities that will allow you to acquire the necessary skills so that you can take the next role, kind of move to the next level within your career. Another reason could be changing a job, for instance. If you kind of think of yourself as a learner, and depending on your current personal situation, if you're looking at taking the level 4 diploma in education and training management, you may be considering pursuing a career within the education field, and that could be a career change for you. So by signing up to take this qualification, you are moving one step closer to becoming a professional in that field. Another reason behind learners joining training and education programs is upskilling. Of course, if perhaps learners are looking to acquire new skills, or do something, a new project within their current role, and that requires upskilling, then that is another reason why they join such activities. So at the actual session that is part of Unit 1, there will be a couple of sessions, but at the first session we are going to dig deeper and really understand some of those key motivations and reasons, because as an education and training practitioner, it is important to always understand your learners so that you can support them in meeting their learning objectives. Now let's have a look at what organizations are trying to achieve by either offering education and training or sending their employees to attend such events. One of the reasons is because they want to upskill the workforce. And as I previously mentioned, another reason is actually improving their performance, which upskilling is actually leads to improved performance, which then translates into an improved performance for the organization. So the return on investment here, when the organization offers learning and development or training and education activities, the return on investment for the organization is improved employee performance, and as a result, improved organizational performance. As I already mentioned, succession planning is another reason why organizations invest in education and training activities. Also, compliance. Think about the pandemic for a moment. Think about all the government regulations and how organizations nowadays, at this current environment that they operate in, they are having to be compliant with the government regulations, which kind of brings us really nicely to the next point, which is health and safety. So being compliant to ensure, for instance, I'm just giving you an example, that all the pandemic measurements are being implemented, and if there is any training required to ensure that the employees are fully compliant, then the organizations can organize that for them. Or general health and safety training, as again that is a form of compliance training. You will learn more about the different types of training and education programs during this unit. So this is just to kind of give you an example of some of those, first of all, some of the motivators behind organizations organizing training and education activities, but also to kind of get you to start thinking while you're listening, perhaps about what are some of the activities, learning and training activities and programs that you have taken part in, and in which category do they fit. Are their purpose to upskill the workforce, in that, let's say, example, to upskill you, to support you in improving your performance, or perhaps to support you in progressing within your career, or are they health and safety related? It is really important to be aware of all the various training and education activities that you could be designing and delivering as a part of your role. That would also depend on the different industries. So during this unit, we can and we will talk about the different industries and what those industries are doing. Okay. So let's talk about also some of the training and education environments. So during Unit 1, we're also going to talk about that. I have just noted a couple of bullet points here, which gives you kind of a nice idea as to the different training environments that are part of the training delivery process. So you could take part in training and education activities when you attend a conference. It could be a lecture. Also, it could be team building activities or individual one-to-one learning sessions. It could be presentations or even public speaking events. And if you think of yourself as a practitioner within the education sector, depending on the industry that you choose to let's say develop your career within, then there will be different environments that are going to be part of the training and of the training delivery. So this is just an example, and I would also like you to think about virtual delivery, because as I just mentioned, because of the pandemic, a lot of things have shifted when it comes to how organizations nowadays are conducting training and development activities. It could be virtual conferences, virtual lectures, virtual team building activities. With the development of technology, there are a lot of ways that those events could take place, which don't necessarily require face-to-face contact. So we are going to be talking about the benefits of face-to-face sessions and training and development activities versus virtual. We're going to again discuss different examples, different technological platforms that can be used, which is going to give you a very good idea of what you could be doing as an effective practitioner within those fields as well. Even public speaking events, for instance, to give you an example, that could be done virtually nowadays. And with the constantly changing government regulations, us training and education practitioners, it is really important that we always keep up with the compliant regulations, are aware, and also flexible. So these are topics that are going to be discussed during this unit. Okay. Another topic that we're going to cover is understanding how people learn. So we are going to focus on identifying your learning style as a practitioner, because it is important that you know how you learn. So for the purpose of today's session, I have picked a model that is it's called the VAK model of learning. It gives you an example of how people learn, and at the actual sessions that are part of this unit, you will be able to identify your own learning style using different modalities. So the model here is actually giving you an example of 3 different learning styles. So for instance, do you learn by seeing things? For instance, because if you do, you are a visual learner. Or do you learn by hearing things? So for instance, if you can sit and listen to this overview session without keeping an eye on the slides and remember most of the things that I'm sharing today, that is your sign that you may be an auditory learner and you like to learn by hearing. Or you might be a kinesthetic learner. So kinesthetic learners like to learn by doing. They like to apply the knowledge themselves. So this is a practical way of learning. I personally am a kinesthetic learner, a mixture between kinesthetic and visual. I would like to see what I need to do, perhaps watch a tutorial, video tutorial, and then in order for me to fully master the learning, I need to do it myself. So I am a mix between visual and kinesthetic. So at the during unit 1, you will identify your own learning style, because as an effective practitioner in the training and development or training and education sector, you will have to identify how your learners learn, so that your delivery style and the activities that you choose when you design the various training programs will help your learners acquire the information, develop their skills in the most effective way possible. Okay. We are also going to look at the training cycle, the education and training cycle. So the education and training cycle is very much related to how we design and create training. So it's kind of a holistic cycle when we look at the actual training intervention. It involves developing, delivering, assessing, and improving training and education programs. So for all this overview session, I will be making references to the training cycle because the training cycle is part of this level, is part of this unit, and it will also be part of your assessment. So it is important that you learn how to work with it, and it is also important that you learn what the various stages involve. So this is just an example. It was developed by Buckley and Capo in 1995 and then further developed in 2009. So we will be making references to the training cycle throughout today's session, and at the actual sessions that are part of this unit, you will learn more about it in detail. Okay. Let's talk about the role of differentiation in relation to education and training, because this is also another topic that we are going to be covering during this unit. So differentiation. Differentiation is a concept that applies to how you deliver the training in a way that facilitates learning. And for this to happen, you need to be mindful of how people learn, also whether they have any learning needs, for instance if they've got dyslexia, or if they have some perhaps I'm just giving you an example here, mental health challenges or disabilities that you need to be aware of. It is important that these are identified in advance of them attending the training and development activity. So taking into account not only how people learn, but whether they also have learning needs and what their preferences are when it comes to learning allows you to differentiate your approach when it comes to delivering the actual content of the training and development programs, so that everyone will learn in the most effective way possible. So we are going to be talking about the concept of differentiation and know the different elements that you should be mindful of in your delivery style, and also when you're designing the training and development activities and going through the training cycle. Okay. It is also important that you understand the roles and responsibilities that are directly relevant to you as an education and training practitioner. So Unit 1 is all about learning about your role and learning about what the role involves and what you need to be developing in order to be an effective practitioner. So what does your role involve? Well, designing, delivering, and evaluating training and education programs. Of course, we have just covered that. That is the primarily responsibility of the role of an education and training practitioner. But let's take a moment here and really think about some of the other responsibilities that perhaps are not so wildly addressed in job descriptions, for instance, because most job descriptions, they focus on the attributes that organizations are looking when it comes to whether you fit the organizational profile and also what the role involves. But how about leadership? As a training and development practitioner, you are also a leader. And you are not only a facilitator, but you are a leader, especially when you are facilitating training and educational programs, and you are also using mentorship approaches sometimes to make references to your own examples. That really helps you become an effective leader, so that you can engage learners and they will absorb the knowledge that you're sharing, but also they will be interested, they will be engaged. So leadership is also a part of your role as well. So we are going to be talking about that during this unit as well. Health and safety. Another element that is important, ensuring that health and safety regulations are always taken into account and that you are compliant. So health and safety will look completely different if you're delivering programs virtually as opposed to face-to-face, and usually if you are delivering activities, training and education activities face-to-face, then the place where you're delivering them, the environment, we already spoke about the different environments, will have their own set of health and safety regulations. So as part of your responsibilities, it is important that you are fully aware of those health and safety regulations because you should be compliant. Also, strategic planning. Let's talk about the strategy that is also part of the role. If you're part of a learning and development team in an organization, for instance, then one of your responsibilities will be planning learning and development activities that help the organization to improve its performance, which is part of its strategy. So you may be thinking, if you are delivering training to managers, for instance, you may be thinking, what is the learning need for them to perhaps perform at a whole new level, which is going to help the organization improve its key performance indicators, just kind of giving you an example here. So strategic planning, you may be involved as a training and education practitioner in the strategic planning of those training and education activities to support the organization as well. So this is also part of your role. And last but definitely not least, quality monitoring and assurance, which then allows you to continuously improve not only your delivery style, but also the actual effectiveness of the training and education programs. We are going to be talking about quality improvements as a part of this level as well. So this is what you will be learning as well. So these are just some of the roles and responsibilities. And although this is not on the slide, I would also like you to think about perhaps the role of a psychologist, or being able to understand the motivations, the mindsets behind your learner's intention to attend a particular training and education session, depending on which industry you're in. So the role is not black and white, and depending on your industry, it has diverse responsibilities that are part of it. Of course, the primarily one being the design, delivery, evaluation, and the continuous improvement of learning and development programs. So I hope this gives you a really good overview as to what you can expect to be involved in as a part of your role in the training sector. Okay, now